eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, weirdos and freaks, welcome to the show. We have an exciting UFO case today, one that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about for a long time. There's a long list. It's a mental list. It's not physical. It's in my head of many different things and interesting, weird cases, stories, videos in my head that over time slowly just get plucked. And, you know, I decide that today is the day. And today is the day that we look at the Penturk UFO case. And I hope I'm saying that correctly, because we know that the Welsh have a bit of a toxic relationship with vowels. Okay, it's very toxic. Sometimes you will get none at all in a long word that has no vowels. It's quite strange, but I do believe it is Pentyrch is how it's said. Naturally, I want to say Pentyrch, but I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's correct at all. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is a story told by a lady named Kaz Clark. And unfortunately, she's not on the show today. I know sometimes people get confused whether it's going to be a podcast or actually looking at something. We are looking at something today. However, I have spoken to Kaz Clark quite a long time ago. She seemed like a very nice lady, but the conversation just kind of fizzled out, never ended up eventuating into her coming on the show, which is what I was hoping to happen. But no matter. Doesn't matter, because there are plenty of videos and things out there for us to look at. And what we actually have today is a two-part show. So we've got about 25 minutes of, I guess it's like a mini documentary of Kaz explaining the Penturk UFO case, what she saw happen. And then we've actually got another 25-minute video of her doing a Q&A based on things people are asking her about the story, which I thought kind of created like a nice comprehensive overview of something to look at. So it's a really interesting one. Basically, Kaz believes that she saw kind of like what she terms as an ambush from the military, that they were waiting. They knew that this pyramid-shaped UFO, by the way, pyramid-shaped UFO, she believes the military knew that it was going to appear and that they were waiting to ambush it, and that in all of the kerfuffle that she saw, this pyramid-shaped UFO ejected what she terms as a hand of lightning. Crazy stuff. If there's anyone who hasn't heard this story, I think you're going to really enjoy it. And anyone who has, I think it's going to be a fun little refresher. Annika Q, you little weirdo, thank you very much for becoming a member. Joan Bro, gifted a membership. Thank you very much. V Silver, welcome back, you weirdo. Count the Eisenberg, welcome aboard, you little freak. Yvonne Pandora gifted a membership. So did Bleak. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your support. Jane Kelly put in $20 and said, hello, everyone. Hello, Jane. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're nice and comfy, ready for a fun show. Joshua Bartlett and No Sparrow gifted a membership as well. Absolute legend. Let's get some love in the chat for these weirdos. Set the show off with a nice positive tone. And let's jump over here. Kerfuffle, my favorite word. It's a good one, isn't it? It's a good one. It very gently explains what could be an absolute mess. Something you could explain in a far different way, but kerfuffle just does it nicely. Okay. By the way, look, just before I hit play here, I just want to say this. I just think, David Wilcock passed away recently. We covered this on the show. The editor's has clipped it up as well if you want to go see the short version. I guess, by the way, while I'm here quickly, if you can't make all the live streams all the time, subscribe to Polarity 2.0. It's linked below. Clips from these live shows, little segments go up on there if you want to catch it in small chunks. You've also got Polarity clips on Instagram as well. But can I just say, I just think it's really gross when people use someone's death to sort of try and drive their own points home. Do you know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, look, who knows if David Wilcock killed himself, if someone else killed him, who really knows? But people just like love to use these kind of events to like latch onto it and try and drive home the fact that they were right, that he actually was crazy and that this obviously is a suicide or the other way. You know what I mean? And I just think like, man, at the end of the day, like above all of this, UFO bullshit, I'll just call it, even not that it's bullshit, but it's bullshit in comparison to the fact that we're all just human beings, people. Like, you know what I mean? Can we all just get along and appreciate that before we get too caught up in our, day-to-day bullshit? It's just not cool. I don't think so. I just wanted to say that, get that off my chest. And now we can get into the show. So we're going to start off with it's actually about 30 minutes. This is a 30-minute documentary on the Penturk UFO incident, narrated by Kaz Clark, who is the one who was there and saw it. This happened in 2016, people. So this is just over 10 years old. Just over 10 years old. And as always, we will stop off when we need to have a little pause break. Mickey with 12 months. Mickey, look at that beautiful orange badge. Thank you very much for your 12 months of support. Let's get some love in the chat for Mickey. She says, here's to 12 months of being an official weirdo. Thank you for all that you do and all the legends that I now call my Polarity family. Mickey, you are a gem. And she's gifted 20 memberships. Wow. Thank you very much, Mickey. Guys, there's going to be a lot of people getting memberships right now. Make sure you say thank you to Mickey. Absolute legend. This is the best community on YouTube, people. And I'm very confident of it. In fact, they've been sitting in a Discord call for 620 hours. Who else is doing that? Thank you very much, Mickey. Let's get into this show. Kaz Clark and the Penturk UFO incident.
In the early hours of the morning of Friday the 26th of February 2016, Llantrisant, a small town located on the outskirts of the Welsh capital, was disturbed by a great commotion. Starting at around 2 a.m, residents took to social media to complain about being startled awake by the sound of several military helicopters circling above the town. Some users reported seeing helicopters land on the local common, with others complaining that military presence over Llantrisant lasted for many hours.
My apologies. I just want to say I believe this documentary is by the Paranormal Reporter, I think was the name. The link isn't in the description right now, but it will be at the end of the stream. Shout out to these guys.
Other residents, frightened by the unexpected presence of so many military vehicles, phoned the police. In the years since, transcripts of some of the calls made that morning have been released via a Freedom of Information request. "I'm concerned," one caller stated. "There is a helicopter flying very low. It has come around 7 to 8 times. It's not like a police helicopter, it's a big double-engined one." Another distressed resident described the helicopter they saw as a Chinook.
Paranormal Scholar, thank you. Thank you very much.
They wanted to report that they had seen it fly so low that it had nearly hit their chimney. "The helicopter is causing my house to shake," another caller stated. Someone else reported hearing bangs alongside the loud helicopters and wanted to know if their children and livestock were in danger. The volume and tone of the calls made to the police that morning show that this was not a normal occurrence for Llantrisant. Later that morning, as the sun rose, weary-eyed residents turned to the local news for an explanation. The disturbance was, according to the media outlet Wales Online, a major training drill between the British Army and Royal Air Force. Described as a bi-annual training package known as Exercise Chameleon, the events were said to be an entirely normal military exercise, and as such did not require local people to worry. And so there was a simple explanation, or so it seemed.
There always is. There's always a simple explanation, right? Doesn't mean it's true.
Like so many others in the area that day, Kaz Clark, a resident of Penturk, a village located just 6 miles from Llantrisant, had suffered a sleepless night. When she read the Wales Online article, however, she was wide awake. "I can categorically state that this was no exercise," Clark wrote in a comment she posted on the article on the day of the happening. She continued to explain that she had witnessed absolutely everything, and that the target which the military was chasing was not a Royal Air Force plane or other training exercise vehicle. It was a UFO. Clark's comment, along with all others on the article, appears to have since been deleted and can now only be accessed via screenshots. Her story and what she claims to have seen that night, however, has not disappeared. In the years since the 26th of February 2016, Clark has been vocal about her experience, believing that what she and others witnessed that night in South Wales has implications for all of humanity. I was fortunate to be able to meet with Kaz Clark at the location in Penturk where the incident is said to have happened.
We ran
Okay,
to
here we
this
go.
gate and David ran into the field, and I actually called him back because of all the military activity. I didn't want us to appear hostile.
For Clark, the Penturk incident, as the case has subsequently become known, did not begin on Friday the 26th. Rather, it started a few days earlier when she and her neighbour Dave noticed a small grey twin-propeller plane flying low and very slow over their village. It was not unusual to see military aircraft in the area. MOD St. Athan, a large Ministry of Defence site, is located less than 15 miles away and is home to several Royal Air Force units. However, when Dave complained that he had been kept awake all night by the planes flying, they knew this was not normal behaviour. Their attention now drawn to the plane's presence, on Wednesday the 24th they noticed a second plane, similar to the first, arrive over Penturk and swap places with the other. Between the two planes, the airspace over the village was under constant observation, day and night, and so on the evening of Thursday the 25th, Clark and her neighbour decided to camp outside, close to the fields behind her house, to watch the plane. It was around 2 a.m. on the 26th when she and Dave witnessed the arrival of a different plane. Fast, low, loud, it flew over the fields and began circling the sky. When it banked to the left, the moonlight illuminated a mushroom on its back. It was an E-3 Sentry, an airborne early warning and control aircraft, with a distinctive rotating radar dome above its fuselage. They watched it circle 7 times. Then something even more unexpected happened. A red light became visible above the tree line at the end of the field.
I was totally in shock and awe of what I was seeing when red light turned into 3, which was a triangle on the oblique angle coming in point first, which turned out to be a full-size pyramid.
This pyramid, Clark claims, was an intelligently controlled craft. Standing at the gate that marked the entrance to the field, she and Dave watched it and witnessed something spectacular.
The leading set of 6 lights on the near side edge were brighter than the rest of the ship, like some kind of steering mechanism for the ship. It came in point first, and when it was fully here, it came down in a pendulum motion and lined up behind those trees there. And when it was in the upright position, it fired this green object out at the top like it had been fired out of a cannon, so fast. It skipped across and in front, or just above, these trees on my left-hand side here, and just rocked backwards and forwards gently.
Is that volume okay for you guys?
I can't tell you what shape it was because it was too bright, brighter than the moonlight, like a really bright green star, like the size of a small car. The E-3 Sentry was flying up by this time and back round and coming back down again. I was standing on the gate, up my leg actually hooked over the top, and I was staring through the bare trees
Roger.
to get a better look, because this pyramid listed to the right hand side, still turning very slowly anti-clockwise, started to move backwards away from us. And I said to Dave, it's landing. But in actual fact, that the field rises there, because you've been out and seen it, and the land was coming up to meet it. And as it neared the ground, it ejected this hand, I described it like a hand of lightning, but it wasn't thin lightning like we see here. It was thick, like fire, like fingers. And the whole thing lit up really brightly, so you could see the whole outline of it. And such was the size of it, while I was staring at the bottom, you couldn't see the top.
A hand of lightning. Like, I wonder what made her use the term hand. Like, I feel like to use that term, you must feel like this thing was controlled, like it was ejected and used for a purpose from the craft. The same way like our hand is like a utility for our body. Like we can use it to grab throw, like poke, you know what I mean? Like it's a utility. So it makes me wonder if she felt like in this moment that whatever this electrical charge, this lightning that came from the craft was like a controlled ejection to do something. Like it had a purpose.
That's how big. Now, whilst I was fixated, and don't ask me why I was fixated on it touching the ground, because I don't know to this day, but David said he saw 15 or 20, he described them as orbs, come out the top of it. And I can stand here and tell you that I saw them, but I genuinely didn't, because I was so fixated on it touching the ground. Anyway, I heard it went from like tail light red to like bright white orange, and the nearest lights to the ground were the brightest.
Interesting that this is like, you know, that same halogen orange color that seems to pop up in a lot of these stories, right? You know, not very often is it a pyramid craft, but this color seems to be significant, right, across a lot of different things. And the idea of orbs ejecting from it, I mean, there were so many videos, especially around the New Jersey drone flap, where it looked, you know, again, at the end of the day, these are just lights in a dark sky from our perspective. Who knows what they really were or really are? But there were a lot of videos that seemed to show like a singular light point multiplying itself, like ejecting another orb or point of light out of itself. And now there were two. Like there were quite a few videos like that. So again, and this is back in 2016, 10 years ago.
This point with the pyramid object and green light in front of her, as well as the E3 Sentry still flying overhead, Clark describes the arrival of yet more military aircraft.
Wingtip to wingtip, two big American planes with two engines, propeller engines, on each wing. And I looked up just to see them go over the top. And when I looked back, I couldn't see the pyramid anymore. But that's not to say it wasn't there, I just couldn't see it. But the green object was still there.
With 3 planes now in the sky, yet more appeared. Clark describes these as 2 C-130s, big Hercules aircraft, which turned and flew in behind the other planes. That placed 2 planes out wide and 2 planes in close.
And this green object shot across really fast in front of the planes. The E3 Sentry is still going up and back round again. Excuse me. And it flashed 3 really bright strobes at the aircraft, and then seemed to get excited somehow, like bobbing and skipping and bobbing and skipping in the westward direction towards Llantrisant, because our planes were following it. I think it was a deliberate decoy to draw the aircraft away from the main ship.
With the green object skipping away into the distance towards the town of Llantrisant, Clark watched the 4 military aircraft follow in pursuit. The events of the night, however, were far from over.
And these 2 red barrel-shaped objects came from my left-hand side. One stopped above the hedge just where I was standing. And I'm still standing on the gate. And I just stared at it for a few seconds because of the shock and because I wanted to know. And I could see all the insides moving, like I described it like white noise on a TV screen, but it was more 3D than that. It was more like it was turning in on itself, not flat, you know. And then I looked to see where the second one was, and that hadn't stopped. And that was right above me, just above this branch here. And the one above me changed colour from tail light red to traffic light green, and I could see even clearer the insides moving. And I felt it scan me. When this one had scanned me above here, the red one that had remained sentry the whole time was still there. The green barrel then moved off to my right hand side above these rooftops here, and then the red barrel moved off to my left hand side and down across the field. And I stood on the gate and I watched it until I couldn't see it anymore.
The first thing that I think of here is some of the details that were in the original 4chan whistleblower, right? Was that this construction unit is building these UAPs for purpose, and that their shape or color can be indicative of like whatever its purpose is. Like, from memory, it was saying something like something that is designed to recover minerals or resources may be red or reconnaissance scanning could be green, something like that. I remember there were details very similar to that in the 4chan whistleblower.
After the barrel objects disappeared from view, Clark and Dave decided to walk into the field to the second gate. They hoped to be able to see some of the other barrel-like objects, which Dave had observed come from the pyramid craft.
Built for purpose.
As they walked, the E3 sentry plane followed them overhead. It was too dark and slippy to see anything more.
So we'd walk back to this gate, and we heard the Apache helicopters coming. We'd gone around the side there just so you could get a better viewpoint through the trees. And there were 3 Apache helicopters, one above 2, going low across the fields, pushing all the trees and hedges flat with the force of their rotor blades. Big red pulsing lights going out in front of them on an interception course with the green object that had gone west before. In my opinion, we were only standing at this gate, including the time that it took us to walk down and back again, for maybe 10 minutes. I got back to my house. I heard an enormous explosion from the direction of Pentyrch. Pentyrch's 5 miles from here, and it was enormous. Kaboom. You know, this is not a little fake incendiary device. This was an explosion.
And certainly, as is evidenced from police transcripts from that morning, Clark was by no means the only person in the area to have heard the explosion. People were shaken awake. Car alarms were set off. Seismological data from the British Geological Survey also confirms that, in the early hours of the morning on Friday the 26th of February 2016, there was a seismological anomaly in South Wales. Despite the closest station to Penturk being located some 45 miles away, the event still registered. Described by the British Geological Survey as a small transient signal, it was registered at around 4:20 am. Around this time, there were also said to have been reports of an explosion being heard close to the Royal Glamorgan Hospital in Penturk, with it being claimed that the blast shook the hospital to the foundations, caused the windows to rattle, and resulted in thick smoke coming inside. The official explanation for the military helicopters witnessed by members of the public over Penturk was the training exercise Chameleon. However, when asked via a Freedom of Information request whether or not the reported explosion was related to this exercise, the Ministry of Defence said that it would not be possible for the MOD to retrospectively confirm that the shaking reported in February 2016 was caused by the simulated explosions. The wording of this response leaves a lot to be desired. What makes it particularly interesting, however, is that a response was given, whereas other questions posed via Freedom of Information request related to the Penturk incident have been met with blanket Section 26 exemptions, which allow for the withholding of information that might be considered a security risk. Why was this question answered? And more importantly, why did the MOD not simply confirm that the shaking was a result of their simulated explosions? As such, it seems to suggest that the seismological anomaly experienced and recorded in the area may have had a different origin. Kaz Clark is one of many people who believe that they know the true cause of the explosion. Later in the day, on the 26th, after reading reports online of helicopters and troops from people in Penturk, Clark decided to go to the town to see if she could uncover what had happened to the green object she had witnessed being pursued in that direction by military planes. Her first stop was Penturk Common, an extensive piece of open land designated for public use.
Am I the only one who finds her tone of voice sleep-inducing? No, you're not. No, you're not. She does have that kind of newsreader voice, which I'm sure probably is designed to put you into some kind of like hypnotic trance, right? Because that's what the news is. It's programming, and she does have that tone to it. So no, you're not alone on that. But we're almost halfway through this, and we are going to hear a bit more from Kaz. And then the second half of this video is only Kaz answering questions from people who have basically watched this video, gotten the details of the case, and then tried to push her and probe her on a few things that they maybe felt like didn't make sense. So I think the second half is going to sort of open it up a little bit more and answer some questions.
There were rumours online that troops had performed a metal search there.
And all the metal that had been...
No, she's not AI. She's not AI.
Been on the common for years, old bikes, couple of old fridges were all neatly stacked up along the roadside. And yellow tape everywhere. Like they'd cordoned off areas once they'd searched it.
Whilst at the common, Clark claims to have spoken to a couple of dog walkers who clarified to her that there had been 2 explosions earlier that day, one in the air and a second on the ground. They claimed it had come from Clontricent Forest, a 600-acre woodland on the outskirts of the town known locally as Smilog Woods.
Gone up to Smilog Woods, and because we knew the trajectory of the green object, it wasn't long before we found the debris trail. And there were 60-foot trees. This is Forestry Commission. There are no branches on the lower parts of the trees. Snapped mid-trunk, as far as the eye could see. Branches lay left and right of us in a perfectly straight line. And when we got up over the ridge, right in front of us was this group of trees, 6 of them all together, snapped 20 feet in the air, and all these white burn marks on all the surrounding trees, and a really pungent smell. And my hair had turned completely white. Completely white. I mean, I'm a little bit salt and pepper, and I'm getting completely white, but overnight this was quite shocking, to be honest, and that is on the video of the crash site.
What does that mean? Like, does that mean her hair was coated in some kind of dust or debris that made it appear white, or her hair follicles were like literally turned white? Like, I'm not sure what she means by that. But it's very interesting, this idea that, you know, trees are cut through like a knife through butter. Because, again, this is something that I think even Jonathan Weygandt spoke about, which is, you know, in a sort of a similar environment, like some kind of jungle, that it seems like something has just cut straight through the dense trees. Like, you know, how do you explain it? Yeah, I guess just like a knife through butter is the best way to explain it, which is something that we can't really, like, what does that? What does that to dense vegetation? Like nothing really, other than if you were to think of like a ball of magma or plasma, I don't know. Only something like that that is, I guess, able to move by itself is able to just cut through an environment in such a way. It's almost like, you know, it reminds me of like modeling in like Blender or Maya. You just use like a Boolean to like cut your clay in half. It's like that kind of thing. Toxic Fart says, was Jake Barber piloting one of those helicopters? Maybe. Honestly, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. No Sparrow with 8 months says, so happy to make a live. Probably got to go to bed now. Have a great show. Thank you, No Sparrow. Pleasure to have you here. I know the times aren't fantastic for everybody at the moment, but I'm doing my best to share it around a little bit, and we'll be back in a normal time zone soon, not in the middle of nowhere.
As well as debris and peculiar burn marks on the trees, Clark also states that it was snowing at the alleged crash site, but nowhere else. I asked her if it was actual snow or if it might have been debris falling from the sky.
Thank you, Christina.
No, it was snow, but it was spongy. You know, like you catch a piece of snow and it'll melt in your hand. Whereas with this, you could squeeze it between your fingers,
wind filter,
release your fingers, and see the flattened piece, and then it would dissolve. So it was a bit like marshmallowy, but not quite. You know, it would still dissolve, but
like some chemical reaction.
Yes, absolutely, some kind of microclimate that was occurring there.
A similar anomaly was also observed in the fields behind Clark's house, at the location where the pyramid craft supposedly sent out a hand of lightning as it came close to the ground.
Polarity anytime is a good time. There we go. See, that's the attitude we want. My man, Math. You catch Polarity any time of the day and enjoy it. My man.
Peculiarly, this patch of grazing land seemed to have been affected by the craft, leading to it being referred to as the Bald Patch. As well as Clontricent and Smilog Woods, Clark also investigated this area after her experience.
We'd gone over to the field where the Bald Patch is, expecting to see burn marks on the ground. And there was nothing, but everything was dead. Everything was dead. The grass was dead, the bushes were dead. Like something had sucked all the life out of them. And it was snowing, just in that one field.
To this day, some 5 years after the incident, the Bald Patch is still visible.
And it was snowing just in that field. That's so odd. I don't know if I've heard anything like that before. We've definitely heard of what I guess like we would explain it as like radiation, existing radiation in a concentrated area of where a sighting or a crash or something happened. That's not unfamiliar. I mean, she doesn't use the word radiation, but I guess I don't know. Is that how we would explain that? Is that what that is? Would anyone agree with that, or is there another name for it?
Many who have visited it report being negatively affected by the patch. And indeed, there may be an explanation for this. Some 18 months after her experience, Clark got into contact with the Swansea UFO network, and in particular the researcher Gary Jones. After much field research, they were able to prove that there were electromagnetic field anomalies at both the alleged crash site in Smilaug Woods and across the fields behind Clark's house, specifically at the Bald Patch. Despite the passage of time, the radiation detected was significant and far in excess of what one might expect. According to Jones, in 2019, 3 years after the incident, the highest readings still showed that 1 hour's exposure in what he describes as hotspot areas, including the Bald Patch, would have been equal to roughly 21 days of normal background radiation. Even the lower readings were equivalent to 2.4 days, which
There you go.
is the same as a chest X-ray.
Hoggy says, I have a friend who lives in North Wales and he says this is all fake. I think he's just not a believer. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Just because someone lives nearby doesn't, it's like, fair enough, you don't believe in it, but what is that based on? Is it just based on the fact that this is all a little crazy and you've never really heard much about UFOs before, so it must be fake? Because that's not really a reason. I think we all know that, right? And I know you probably know that too, Hoggy, but I would push people on that. Like when someone says, oh, no, I think that's all fake. It's like, okay, but why? Like I feel like you're saying half a story. Like you can't really have a conversation with that. I think it's all fake. And then end of conversation. Like, no, like you have to follow it up with why. Like, why do you think that? Bring a point to the table, please. And I think ultimately, people who aren't ready to open their mind to stuff like this, if you were to show them this, it's not going to matter. They're just going to be like, she's crazy. She's obviously crazy, right? She's obviously crazy because what she's saying doesn't fit with my model, so they must be wrong. You can't really work with people like that. If your perspective isn't open, there's no way to force it open.
It is difficult to argue a natural cause for these readings. And yet, natural causes for the anomalies witnessed at both Penturk and Clantrisant are all official public bodies can give. The trees at Smilaug Woods, which showed significant damage, or indeed complete destruction, were hastily cut down and replaced after the incident. When asked why this was the case, Natural Resources Wales, the authority responsible for Smilaug Woods, stated that they had to undertake felling of larch that were infected with Phytophthora. This was the reason.
Phytophthora, is that a Welsh word? That sounds like a Welsh word that has actually no vowels in it when you spell it out.
For their removal and replanting. Phytophthora, also known as larch disease, is a highly destructive, fatal pathogen which, as well as affecting larch, can spread to other tree species. Whilst larch disease is a very serious problem and is known to affect forests across Wales, there is no specific evidence that the trees in question were infected. According to Natural Resources Wales' own guidance, due to the seriousness of the disease, a felling licence is required before trees are removed. There is no evidence that such a licence was granted for the trees in Smilaug Woods. Not only that, the procedure is to harvest the trees entirely, so as to ensure the disease does not remain or spread. This is known as a sanitised felling. Once again, there is no evidence that this was the case for the trees in Smilaug Woods, with remnants of the old trees still remaining dispersed across the ground to this day. The area was also immediately replanted with new trees. According to the Forestry Commission, residual spores which spread larch disease are likely to remain in the leaf litter and soil for 2 to 4 years after felling, and thus immediate replanting is not advised. Perhaps the best evidence against Natural Resources Wales' claim, however, is this. When I visited the alleged crash site, several broken trees remained, seemingly from the night of the incident. They had not been removed as the procedure surrounding larch disease requires. In fact, they were so untouched that even the peculiar white burn marks described by Clark were still on the surface of some of the trees. Consistent with her reports, one tree looked distended, as though on the edge of explosion, which is thought to have occurred to some of the other trees no longer standing when in the presence of the UFO.
Is this meant to be a photo of a tree that is distended? Does anyone know what that actually means? A distended tree? She's saying it looks like a tree is on the verge of looking like it's going to explode. I don't get that from this tree, but maybe the visual isn't actually matching the narration. What is distended? I've never seen that. I don't know if I've seen that. Swollen? Okay.
And so, why were these trees removed? Throughout, the official explanations for the strangeness of the events of the 26th of February 2016 have either not made sense or are incomplete. In addition,
So, inflated, bloated, swollen from the inside. Okay, all right. We've got about 10 minutes left on this, and then we're going to get into the Q&A with Kaz.
in addition to the claim of a military exercise being responsible for the disturbances, an overturned lorry was also said to be the reason why many roads, including major highways in the area, were closed that night. When Gary Jones asked via a Freedom of Information request why this was the case, the South Wales Police brushed him off, stated his requests were vexatious, and that they had been unable to locate any recorded information in relation to any road closures on the date specified.
Can we get someone in the chat to give us a Google on vexatious?
But that, not having any recorded information, they also somehow knew exactly what information he was requesting, as they also stated the officers involved have since left the organisation. A separate Freedom of Information request sent to the Ministry of Defence in 2019 asked specifically about the pyramid craft and the other objects seen that night. The MOD's response, rather than claiming that they did not know anything about the craft or objects, stated that they hold information related to the request, but due to operational sensitivity are withholding it. They cite Section 26 as a qualified exemption, claiming that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosure.
Vexatious is annoying. People saying aggressive. Q Burrito says, I'm vexatious with Josh's beard. Okay, I'm not sure if I should be worried about that. And Hoggy says, my stomach is distended from the Jim Beam I drink. Fantastic. Good stuff, people. See, this is why we have a community, so we can get answers quickly.
UK's Ministry of Defence does not deny that they know about the craft seen by Clark and others. They are simply unwilling to disclose the information. It is therefore with substantial evidence that Kaz Clark and the researchers close to the case, including Gary Jones, claim that not only did an alien craft visit Penturk that night, but that a violent interaction between it and the military was covered up. The ultimate claim is that an alien craft crashed in Smilog Woods and was subsequently removed by the military.
Where's Marinda when we need her? Look, I put up a thumbnail the other night that had a spelling error in it, and Marinda and no one was there to correct me until it was live for hours. So thank you, everyone.
This is a claim which has spanned the days, weeks, months and years after the original incident. Indeed, Kaz Clark asserts that only a few days after the Penturk incident, yet more military personnel were seen in the area, this time camping in one of the fields close to where she and her neighbour witnessed the pyramid craft.
Well, shortly after the event, we had some men and women come and camp in the fields here, behind this thicket of trees. So from my house, I couldn't actually see them. And I only knew they were there because of my local Penturk hub, and a couple of dog walkers, people come out here quite regularly, have been given different stories. One, that they were a fracking survey team, which didn't go down very well in the village. And two, that they were Vodafone. Well, this tweaked my curiosity and I wanted to come out and see. And I came out with a friend, with my dog, and the guys had taken my dog for a walk. And there were two soldiers walking towards us wearing full digital camos, carrying real guns. So they said to us that they were doing a military exercise in case we saw anything funny going on down in the fields.
Come on, Hans. Come on, Hans. None of that.
They've gone through the gate, disappeared down the road. We've gone down to where the second gate is and turned left into the field where they were camped.
I can't unsee it, Hans.
And I've always said you can take the man out of the army, but you can't take the army out of the man. Every single tent was in perfect straight line. Every string, perfect straight line. And they told me they were Vodafone. So within 10 minutes, I've been given 2 different stories. They said they were Vodafone doing field tests, but they had one of these large laptops, twice the width of a laptop, in a metal case. And they clearly didn't want me to see what they were doing. They closed this case. We'd walk down further in the field where the pyramid had come in, because it came in across that way, sideways, and then swung down. They were wearing white forensic suits doing a fingertip search of that field. They too had one of those big laptop devices in the field with them. And right at the end of the trail where the disused quarry is, they had another jeep with another one of those laptop things.
This is a real photo. This is a photo taken from the day. This is exactly what she's referring to.
With satellite dishes and aerials. We actually think they were triangulating a satellite into this area to listen, perhaps. Not entirely sure what they were doing.
It seems as though the military had a reason to be interested in Pentyrch and the surrounding area. What this reason was, however, has never been confirmed. Arguably, even more interesting than the appearance of the military in the fields behind Clark's house, however, was the arrival of a specific plane at Cardiff International Airport on the day of the incident. Identified by plane spotters and shared on the South Wales Aviation Group website, was Kitty 74, a ZE-700 Royal Air Force plane usually reserved for transporting high-level officials such as the Prime Minister. It was seen landing in Cardiff International Airport at 5:36 p.m, just 13 miles from Llantrisant. It had flown from RAF Northolt, the base which services London and would be the first choice for high-level officials needing to fly from the capital. Intriguingly, the then Prime Minister of the UK, David Cameron, was in the area that day, a mere 8 miles from Llantrisant, after giving a speech at a GE aviation plant. He was, however, already in the area before Kitty 74's arrival, potentially suggesting that someone other than the Prime Minister had flown into the area. Was it mere coincidence that both the Prime Minister and possibly another high-level official were both close to Llantrisant on the very day that it is said that an alien spacecraft was captured? And
Perfectly Imperfect says, I love you guys. Torn meniscus, being depressed, dysfunctional sucks. Perfectly Imperfect, I feel you. I hope I'm sending you some healing vibes. Because I really feel that. I feel like my mental health is tied to my physical health directly. And if I don't feel good, I don't feel good up here either. So I hope you start feeling better soon. Taris says, hey guys, I'm back from the bar in the Bahamas. Taris, this is so weird. This is the second time this has happened, I think, bro, where I, just in my own time, have just randomly thought, I haven't seen Taris around lately in Discord or in the streams. Haven't seen him around. And then the next day you pop up. That's just the second time this has happened, bro. Are you in my head? What's going on?
so the stakes of this case are proposed to be very high indeed, none more so perhaps than for Kaz Clark. It was not for no reason that it took her 18 months before speaking out about what she witnessed that night in 2016. When I spoke with her, she revealed that after sharing her comment on the article on Wales Online, she was intimidated.
Because I didn't speak to anybody for 18 months because the mainstream media lent on me and told me to remain silent after my comments on Wales Online.
Of course they
I had a
did.
reporter from Wales Online contact me via my Facebook page and said, will I contact her? And I thought, well, perhaps she's after the real story, foolishly. And I instantly regretted ringing because this was an interrogation. This wasn't, well, what did you see? And, have I any footage? Who have I spoken to? How exactly did I speak to that?
Oh my gosh. Sorry, this is destroying my ears in the headphones, I'll be real, but it is what it is.
Email, text, phone calls, chat boxes. The questioning went on and it was very specific. And I was told to stay silent, so I did for 18 months.
After she began to speak out, the intimidation got worse.
The military came out here and threatened me. When Swansea first published the story, I had some people contact me via my Facebook page, and I've met a few people like yourselves that have had an interest in the case, so I agreed to meet them. Fortunately not on my own. where I was threatened with perhaps a fatal car accident that extended to my family. And that's when I decided that I wouldn't stay silent anymore.
Fear of the consequence of speaking out is understandably a genuine and overwhelming concern for those involved in the case. Whilst Clark is the star witness, she is by no means the only witness of the craft, which is said to have visited Penturk that night. Clark's neighbour Dave, who was with her at the gate when the pyramid craft appeared, whilst not having spoken publicly about the incident, is known to talk privately about what he experienced. Likewise is a witness who posted a comment on a local website in response to a query about the explosions heard in Clontricent. Sharing their experience a mere 9 days after the incident, they describe seeing a bright red pulsing light, then another and another, which formed the shape of a triangle coming down from the clouds. Much the same as Clark describes.
It's interesting because we always see these UFO videos where, you know, it looks like, you guys can't see my mouse, but you see orbs of light, whatever that is, at each point of the triangle. Like, we always see this, right? Obviously, Patrick Jackson's got a whole book about it. You know, he's got a theory that they're all part of like a network, and there's different tiers of these triangular formations, which may be the case. I don't know. But, you know, it's almost like she's seeing the things that a lot of people see all the time, but the gaps are filled in. There's lights in between as well, but that triangular shape is still there. It always seems to be there. Richo says, I'm watching on my phone in the car. Richo, keep your eyes on the road, my man. Keep your eyes on the road. Stay safe. Thank you. And Taris has gifted 5 memberships. Taris, lovely to see you here. Hope you're doing well, my man. Thank you for the generous gifted. Make sure you say thank you if you received one.
Ended their comment by saying, "Please don't contact me. It was something I would rather forget I've seen. Being military involved, don't want to be in any bother with MOD." As for Clark, she believes the only way forward is to give confidence to other witnesses to speak out. One way that she has done this is by self-funding, taking and passing not 1 but 3 polygraph tests to prove the honesty of her testimony. By increasing her public presence and sharing her story, she hopes that more people will come forward. This is by no means easy for Clark. She states that even to this day, she still suffers post-traumatic stress from what she experienced. Indeed, during our interview, whenever a plane flew overhead, her eyes immediately turned to the sky. After experiencing what she claims to have experienced, how could the world ever look the same again?
When you got scanned,
Yeah.
did you feel scared? Was it a fear of the unknown, or do you feel like, because you think that they were benign, could you get a sense of that?
It felt like, and this is going to sound the most bizarre thing, like somebody had reached in and took the fear away from me. I felt elated, almost light, like I'd been touched by something. But it wasn't scary anymore. In fact, I was the complete opposite to Dave. I was energized almost frantically, to the point where I had to tell someone, anyone that would know what to do with this information, because I didn't know anyone. I wasn't a member of any groups. I had no belief in UFOs. If I did, then perhaps I would have known half a dozen people I could have written to have had here on that night, because it was quite obvious they were watching for something. This was not an exercise. They had enough firepower up there to have taken over a small country. This was huge. They set an ambush for this thing. They knew it was coming. I believe that we've got a right to know what's going on. I mean, the military are pursuing and shooting these things down. We're not even supposed to know they exist. I mean, what have they done? Because in my opinion, these things were not hostile. But we seemed to, yes, we would be naive and foolish to believe all life forms are benign. But we're tarring them all with the same brush, so what does that make us? The people should be told we should have a right to vote on this, and not to have this information exempted from the public view, when they were innocent and we shot them down anyway.
This case is far from closed. There are still several Freedom of Information requests pending, which Clark, Jones and others involved in the case hope will shed more light on the incident and perhaps even provide the disclosure so many desire. Not only that, it is said that strange lights are still spotted in the sky over Pentyrch, and have been since the day of the incident. A hotspot for UFO activity, the military, Clark and others claim, are still interested in the area, with military vehicles and searches still being seen and indeed filmed in the area. What happened that night in Pentyrch? To many, the answer is obvious. Earth was visited by an advanced alien race, and we could do nothing but attack them. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra special thank you to my members who helped to choose this video.
So this was the Paranormal Scholar, guys. The link isn't below, but it will be soon after the stream. But if you enjoyed that, you can go over to the Paranormal Scholar and subscribe. We still have another video to go, which is a direct Q&A with Kaz Clark herself, which I think will provide a bit more of like a wider lens and maybe answering a few questions that a lot of you guys have already. You know, what I think when I hear, you know, Kaz Clark saying, you know, we deserve to know the truth about what is going on here, and, you know, I just, the fact that we don't, I just get this idea that, like, I don't think we are not being told the truth because, you know, the people in charge are like, oh, I don't know if they can handle it. You know, I don't want to upset people. Don't want to change things up too much, or, you know, that, you know, I don't think it's like that. I think it's like whatever this thing is either the control structure itself, and part of its intention is to keep like a degree of separation between us, our life, our social hierarchy, corporate world, like all of these things. It's like to keep that over there and them over there. Like it's designed to keep separation, and that's why we don't know, because we're not meant to know. That's kind of that's what I feel, because whenever there's like a run at disclosure, it seems to die in some way, fizzle out, die. I mean, with what's going on right now, sometimes quite literally die, but people disappear. Businesses that pop up and promise all of these amazing things end up kind of going nowhere. It just seems to always meet the same end. And I think that's because ultimately the choice of disclosure is not ours, and it is whatever it is. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's the sort of feelings that I get when, you know, you start to look at all this stuff over and over, and it just feels like ultimately, I don't know if we are meant to know. I'm not saying I don't want to or that we shouldn't, but maybe we're not meant to. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Dan says, nailed it, Josh. I also think it's partially to do with the quantum technology involved. It may have some sort of detriment with more observers. Yeah. I think, you know, if some of this stuff is real, like, you know, we hear about Einstein-Rosen bridges, wormholes, like, what is the implication if these sort of abilities become like a household appliance? Like, are we just ripping open time portals left, right, and center? Like, what kind of world does that create? Where, like, people are teleporting everywhere. You can hop into portals and go into the future or the past. Like, all of this kind of crazy shit. Like, is that even a sustainable, functional world? I don't know. Like, do you need like a coherent, untouched, protected timeline to actually have a functional life? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I do wonder what are the implications are if all of this stuff was out on a, you know, on like a domestic level. Bleak says, sending love to you all. Thank you very much, Bleak. Appreciate you, brother. Beth Noyes says, my kids and I saw a massive triangular craft over the Great Lakes Naval Base. We were driving through Chicago. It was over Lake Michigan. Thank you, Josh, for creating Polarity. My pleasure, Beth, and thank you for the super chat. And that's crazy. You saw a massive triangle over a naval base near the Great Lakes. That's fascinating. Thank you very much for that. Coms, you little weirdo, thank you for becoming a member. And Marin says, great to catch another live stream. Not familiar with this case at all. Very interesting. Really enjoy how you share older cases. Thank you, Josh. My pleasure. I did say in the stream the other day that we would be covering something that was recent that I haven't covered before, and I asked for your guesses. Nobody got it. Nobody guessed this, but I'm glad because that means it was a surprise, and we love surprises. We love showing you something new that you haven't seen before. All right, let's go into part 2 now. So this next one is about the same length, but this is just a Q&A. So this is with Kaz. I'll link it below.
Well, the first thing. The top takeaway from the study is that there is a lot more to learn.
It's turned my world completely upside down. We damn well deserve to know, and we should know, because this planet belongs to all of us.
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries.
And we know they've been bringing these craft down deliberately. What happens if they bring the wrong one down?
So there has been activity by non-human technology that has caused harm to...
What I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
And there were no exercises, military or police counter-terrorism exercises on that night. The mainstream media lied, and I proved they lied. Is this part of my imagination?
Damn, she's fired up there. She's quite fired up there. And I want to say this as well, that like, if you saw what she saw and you saw something that you just know undoubtedly is something that we cannot explain, and that obviously the military or some force knows about it, is engaging with it, is potentially being hostile with it, you know, if there's clearly something going on and you saw it and you know it, what would it do to your mental state to then, you know, that what you saw, the event's over, you go home, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, and you know it was real, and yet everyone around you is just going on with their normal lives, obviously, because they didn't see it. And then when you try to tell people, everyone's just kind of like, okay, maybe, nah, I don't know. You know, some people are going to be like, you're crazy. Some people are going to go, Like, what is that going to actually do to your head when you know you've seen it and you realize that everyone else who didn't see it is not only denying you, but you realize that they're living in some kind of like dissociative, semi-waking slumber, and they have no idea about this like parallel reality and things happening that you now know for certain. You would feel like you would suddenly feel like isolated. I think you would feel like an outcast, or I just think it would mess with your head, because you would realize that everyone is living in this like state of unawareness. I don't know. I think that would have a big effect on someone's mental state. Here we go.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kaz Clark from the Penturk incident. And I want to say thank you so much for all of your comments and for asking me to come back. And I actually owe you the respect to come back and answer your comments live. I want to say thank you to everyone that commented, to my trolls, my debunkers. Thank you. And actually, I do forgive you for what you say, because I do this for everyone, for the whole of humanity, and that includes you, because this case is so important.
The first question says, this is one of the best UFO cases I have ever heard. Kaz is a force to be reckoned with. It's as if the UFO showed its presence in front of her so she would fight for disclosure.
Thank you. I do believe that they do choose us. Everyone I've spoken to seems to have been chosen for some reason. I can't explain that. But certainly they came to us that night. And it certainly put a passion inside of me to want to know the truth. Because I'm
Her
not a
name's Kaz
ufologist.
Clark.
This was not an interest of mine. And so now I know that the authorities have lied to us, and I've proved the authorities have lied to us. It's turned my world completely upside down. And as much as we don't have a right to know, because I've been told that, we damn well deserve to know, and we should know, because this planet belongs to all of us.
This question is off Sugar Snap 1578. I hope this lady will be safe. They won't want to get this out. If anything happens to her, we will know why.
You're right. It worries me every day. Every day I have to get into my car. I have to check to make sure that somebody hasn't placed an incendiary device under it, because I was threatened with perhaps a fatal car accident. Maybe I do need protection, and I'm surprised I'm still here.
I mean, I don't know how long ago this interview was, but anyway, it would have been at least a couple of months ago. It's probably a couple of years ago, to be honest. But given all the people disappearing now around the subject, it makes those threats sound a lot scarier.
But maybe in a way, they've allowed me to continue, because for them, this is just another story, like Roswell or Rendlesham, which were both real events. But yeah, I hope I'm still here next week.
This question is from Charles C. said 1974, and he says the Penturk 2016 looks like an authentic UFO incident. Not sure why many UFO researchers don't think it's genuine. Perhaps Kaz is so well spoken and informed, they are miffed. Nice.
Who does anyone happen to know which UFO researchers that the host is saying there, or the person making the comment don't believe this case? I'd be interested to know which UFO researchers don't believe this case.
Interview.
Thank you for that comment. I've come up against a lot of opposition, and I expected to. But I never expected it from my own UFO community. There are a lot of misogynists out there. There are a lot of people out there who I walked away from. And there seems to be an awful lot of jealousy for some reason. This is not about me. This has never been about me. This is about all of us. Every single one of us. And we damn well know, and we should know the truth. And these people should be disgraced because of what they're doing. They're shouting people down when these people are, and then other people that have come forward for the very first time, talking about their experiences, and they're being trolled and debunked by people that call themselves ufologists. You should be ashamed of yourself.
100% agree with what Kaz said there. And I love the passion as well. And I think I even said this on the last stream. Like, I really struggle to get my head around ufologists, UFO researchers. Not that I even consider myself a UFO researcher, by the way. I mean, like, I'm not a researcher. I'm not good at research. But I do like to look into this stuff and talk about it, right? And even just for me, I see some of these people who do call, like, they actually put in their bio and stuff like UFO researcher, ufologist, whatever. They're announcing that that's what they are. Yet at the same time, when you have a case like this or something else where, like, they're just so quick to jump at the fact, like, oh, that person was crazy. No, that's been debunked. No, there's no credible work history on that person. Like, can't find his academic records. It just blows me away because, like, I'm not a UFO researcher and I don't claim to be. But just from looking into this topic, you realize that intelligence agencies and factions of the government, if they don't want you to speak or look or they don't want your voice heard, they have many ways and a large reach and a big ability to delete your work history, your academic records, assassinate your character, make you look crazy, dig up your medical records. Like, this is a pretty well-known thing. So when you see researchers who are just so, like, vehemently like, that person's crazy, he obviously killed himself, was just a suicide, nothing sus here. That is the most sus thing to me. And it's not because there's a conspiracy behind it, but it's like, I feel like a researcher should be open-minded. That should be, like, part of the role. Especially with something so complicated and weird and murky as the UFO phenomenon, right?
This question is from Sunshine QK8QE. I followed this lady's story with great interest until she stated at 1834 that she never left her house for 18 months. Who got her shopping in for her? What if she had to go to the doctor's or a dentist appointment? Also, Kaz stated a man's voice told her to tell the world what she had witnessed. How can an alien speak English?
Okay, well,
this is such a... So the kind of people that I was just talking about, this is them asking this question. This is such a them question. Like, oh, what, you didn't leave your house for 18 months? How did you go shopping? How did you? It's like, bro, you're trying to like debunk someone picking on semantics. Like, please.
Firstly, I didn't see any of Spielberg's funny-looking aliens. And you're absolutely right. If you want to take me literally, a lot of people do on every word I say. Yes, I had to go shopping. I didn't mention that I had to get rushed into hospital because it nearly killed me. So yes, I had to go to the hospital too. But I mean on a social basis. I never went out. And as for it speaking to me in English, I question what these things were, because these things seemed to be alive, like they were the essence of life encapsulated in these things. Were these the angels of light? Because there are no descriptions of them. And if they are, what our ancestors wrote about, did they speak to Mary in English or Hebrew? Did they speak to the shepherds on the hill in English or Hebrew? Did they speak to Mohammed in English? I don't think so. Whatever these things are, speak to us in our languages, and I don't understand that, but it spoke to me.
Interesting that she says it came through the slip of space and not outer space. May lend to the theory that it's not E.T., but us, or descendants or cousins of us.
You know, there's a lot of stories out there, but I don't believe they are related to us in any way at all.
That's interesting. That's like the opposite of what a lot of people say. Kaz doesn't think that they're related to us at all. A lot of people say that they're us from the future. I really don't know. But, you know, it's not like she's had any kind of, you know, she really just saw craft. I feel like that it'd be hard to get a good gauge of that based on the experience she had. I don't know. Maybe she was left with some kind of feelings or something.
I didn't see any biologics. I saw the essence of life, like an energy. And actually, Earth is part of 2 galaxies, not 1. We're actually part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, and we're originally. And that is only visible in infrared. And it might explain why the Hubble telescope was fitted with state-of-the-art infrared cameras, and every star in that galaxy has been mapped.
Sorry, I have no idea what she's talking about there. Does anyone know anything about what she's talking about there? That we're actually part of a second galaxy that's only visible in infrared? Am I hearing that correctly?
Now, every UFO sighting, major UFO sighting in the world, it's happened on these ley lines, these energy points on Earth. And perhaps we believe now that they are using them as some form of conduit to be able to come here. But I don't believe that we are part of them at all.
Do you think there are some that are descendants of us?
I think they probably manipulated our DNA in the past. You know, there are things that I could talk about regarding the Ark of the Covenant and Mr. Ron Wyatt, who found the blood on the Ark that only has 24 chromosomes.
Interesting.
I think when people are speaking about their experiences, I think it serves them best to either be clear and distinct when they are speculating based on their own like additional research and just ideas and thoughts versus like what I know and what is fact from the experience that I had. Because I think it can just kind of like discredit a little bit when maybe you get off on a little bit of a tangent that is your own theories, which obviously you're allowed to have, you're welcome to have, but I feel like it can muddy the story when you start kind of like floating between the two. Like you should sort of stick to what happened, be clear, and everything you learned from that only, and then separate that from like your additional research, the theories that you've kind of put together, the dots that you've connected after the fact. I'm not saying you shouldn't say them, and you're allowed to have them, of course, but be distinct about like what is theory and what is your recollection of the experience you had.
Darren 9336. So we set a trap for a UFO and shot it down. What the heck is going on?
You know, what really worries me is not just that the military knew that they were coming, but that our response to them was to set an ambush. with £3.8 billion of equipment. And our military seem to have had carte blanche to do what they want for almost 100 years now. And we know they bringing these craft down deliberately. What happens if they bring the wrong one down? What does that make us? Because I didn't witness any hostility from them, but I witnessed a lot from us that night. What happens if they come back with their warships? You know, is this why we have an armed military in space now?
Robert's digital. How can we be sure she's not reading us a bedtime story, though?
I'd love to read you a bedtime story.
Such a pleb normie comment.
This is not a bedtime story. I've been accused of using the same terminology over and over again. And I think during this interview is just a prime example of how people hang on my every word, especially when I said I didn't go out for 18 months and then someone picked up, well, must have gone shopping. So I have.
Which is why it's important, again, to distinguish between the story and your own theories.
To be literal. I stay to what I know, what I saw, and I will not change the wording for anyone. So if it comes across as being rehearsed, I apologize. But I can only tell it one way. It only happened one way.
Heart o' gnome. I love the fact that aliens come billions of light years just to interact with morons of our society.
It's so money, Josh. It's like concrete, mate. I'm too disheartened to allow any more energy than a slight curiosity. You know, I think that's okay, Dizzy, and that's probably healthy, to be honest. I think when you allow more than that, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Yep, I do. But I think there's nothing wrong with just being curious about it.
Yeah, well, I don't think they traveled billions of light years. I think they traveled through conduits. And I don't know how long that conduit is, whether it be they're in that conduit for a week or 2 weeks, or whether it's instantaneous. But I think the point is, there were caretakers here, and we're certainly not alone here on this planet, let alone the ones that are transdimensional, that are moving between space and our atmosphere instantaneously, and from our atmosphere into bodies of water instantaneously. We don't have flying submarines even today. Why are they coming here?
We don't have flying submarines? I don't know. I just watched Above Majestic last night. Kind of looks like we might have flying submarines.
Maybe because Earth is a jewel in a desert, 4 billions of miles. I don't know. But there's something here, or something within us, that they need.
Jim Shaw 9449. Clearly, the only threat humanity has to worry about is humanity itself. And it's gone to the point where we're no longer asking if there are aliens, but why are humans hiding the facts?
I think the whole truth is quite frightening.
Agree.
I think they have created a problem for us, not the ETs, the military. And unfortunately, the military are not typical of human beings. They don't represent humanity. Where's the love? Where's the compassion? There is none within the military. Their only interest is weapons and technology.
Yep.
They do not represent me, and they shouldn't represent you, and we should be told what's going on. It's a very dangerous situation.
Yep, it's the way the leaders of the world act is nothing like the normal common folk of the world, which makes you, I think, naturally just ask, like, what is their motives? Like, what is pushing them to believe that constantly putting all of our time, effort, and resources and money into weapons is the most important thing that we could do? Why is building the best and most strongest weapons that could kill everyone on this planet? I'm not saying that's what they want to do, but that is the capability of the things that they're developing. What motivates them to believe that this is the best way we could spend our time and resources?
Sticking on to the military, Christy Barker 924 says, there's been a lot of talk about technology lately, but her story proves that the military at least already had advanced technology. How did they know when to expect the UFOs?
Okay. Ross Coulthard was kind enough to tell us last year that the
Shout out
military
Uncle
are
Ross.
actually monitoring for a frequency to know when these craft are going to, quote, appear. Not come down from outer space, appear. And they're able to track and monitor these craft using this frequency. It's what the satellites are about. We use Galileo over here, which is a bank of satellites, and America used GPS. And these satellites are interlinked. And they do a lot more than tell you where you are on the planet, you know. And it was one of the sticking points when we left the EU, when the EU tried telling our Ministry of Defence when they could use Galileo, because they are actually monitoring for these craft 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Bernard Molan 2976. Sounds like ridiculous nonsense. She's just got a good imagination for telling stories, or she's just nuts.
Well, thank you for that. I really did wish I had that much of an imagination. I'd be writing scripts if that were the case. And if this was just part of my imagination, with a £3.8 billion military operation going on, you'd think that the Ministry of Defence would be able to provide a single piece of paperwork for it.
I don't think we saw it in the documentary that we watched, unfortunately, but I would love to just understand how she found out and came to this figure of what is it that she keeps referencing, like 3.2 billion or something like that, like a multi-billion. This operation was multi-billion. That's a lot of money for this operation that was apparently just a training exercise in the middle of Penturk in Wales. I want to know where this dollar value came from.
But they can't. I've caught the Ministry of Defence out lying multiple times. South Wales Police facing contempt charges, and I took them to the Information Commissioner's office and forced them to answer me because they refused. And there were no exercises, military or police counter-terrorism exercises on that night. The mainstream media lied, and I proved they lied. Is this part of my imagination?
Yes, Kaz, get fired up. Tell them about it. Tell them how it is. I love it. Bleak says it would be getting her on the channel would be awesome. Yeah, like I said at the start, I spoke to her a long time ago, and she was very lovely. But it just she never got back to me, never eventuated. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe one day. Benjamin Dickens says spiritual elements are present. Those in low vibration will see fuck all, mate. In my opinion, I have more questions now than when I started 20 years ago. The truth same doesn't age. Cheers from Ben. Thank you very much, Ben. And I do think about that, what you said too. And, you know, it becomes very kind of like, you know, metaphysical and spiritual and a bit woo. And some people really struggle with that. But I do sort of believe that a high vibration and also like the belief in something does have a really crucial effect. And that's something that obviously you can't really prove. And that's why people have a tough time with it. But, you know, even in my conversation with Chris, when he was talking about, you know, belief and the power of belief and kind of bending and molding reality when you truly believe something like deeply that it will happen, that you can kind of like manifest it in a strange way. I mean, I don't know how it works, but, you know, the placebo effect is real. Placebo effect is real. So what is that?
Why do UFOs always hide from us, yet expose themselves to one or two people, usually in the deep south? And why would they come here in the first place? The entire universe is made up of some basic materials. I'm sure she saw UFOs about 45 minutes after the mushrooms.
There are some rather special mushrooms I've heard in Wales.
These, I'm not gonna lie, these comments kind of suck. I wish they weren't just from like low IQ, closed-minded people.
But that's not my game, I'm afraid. We are actually talking about different types here. There are at least 5 different types that live here on Earth, which is why David Grush steered away from extraterrestrial, meaning simply off Earth, and said non-human intelligences. here on Earth, inside Earth, under the ocean, under the ice, and they hide? Ask yourself, look what happened in Penturk on the 26th of February 2016. Would you hide? And yes, they do show themselves to individuals, and they choose us. And I've covered this before. I don't know why, maybe because we're pure of heart and pure of mind and don't have nefarious intention. But they do choose us for a reason.
Frank Coppin.
How do you guys feel about that? I don't know if I agree with that. And again, I've like, doesn't mean I don't believe Kaz, but just this whole like they choose us. Because to me, that's basically saying every UFO sighting is not incidental but intentional. And I don't know. I feel like there's got to be chances. There's got to be times like, look, we're obviously looking at this from a human perspective, which is all we can do. But like, how could something that is, say, 20,000 feet in the sky, that is a bright light or an orb or whatever, a pyramid, whatever, how is it able to know how many sets of eyes are currently looking at it 20,000 feet below, all around it? There could be so many. Do all of those people get this feeling that it was only there for them? Like, it feels like these experiences do often come with this feeling of, I don't know what the right word is. I want to say like self-entitlement, but that's not what I'm trying to say. But you know what I'm trying to mean? Like, it makes people feel special, like it's for them and it's about them. When is that just like a byproduct of a very sort of ontologically shocking experience because it is so unique and, you know, you've never even heard of something like that being possible. Now you're seeing it happen with your own eyes. It's going to feel like you were chosen or only you were allowed to see this because you've never seen it anywhere else before. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? You could kind of just be a byproduct, but not an actual reality. I don't know.
Just says, how was it a close encounter when then UFO landed miles away?
Oh, Frank, if you please watch some of my presentations. The actual pyramid was about 200 meters away from us, with the barrel-shaped objects that approached us afterwards. One came right over the top of me, and one stayed about 20 feet away from me. These things I saw up close and personal, but the object they shot down, which we believed was a deliberate decoy, crashed into Smilog Woods 5 miles away, yes. So you're half right. Please look at our presentations that you'll find on my YouTube channel, the Penturk incident.
Trevly Godmuck says, she is an alien.
I think we all are. I think every single human being on this planet are aliens. I don't think this is our planet at all. Without preaching, you know, there's such things as the seraphim in the book of Genesis, which are depicted as half man, half serpent. These things were also seen in India, carved into stone. They called them the Naga, and they said that they were responsible for the civilizations, every civilization on Earth. So whose planet is this really?
Rusghoul 2918.
Whose planet is this really? That's a fantastic question. You know, I had this thought the other night of how big the world is, how much of it is actually covered in land, and how much diverse and interesting life and also like barely accessible life there is deep in like the darkest parts of the ocean, and how interesting some of that life is as well. And it made me wonder if, like, you know, the same way that we've found like signs of life deep under the ice in Antarctica where like we wouldn't think life can survive. There is these like random little organisms that we've never seen before, but they're alive. Like there is life forming in these really harsh, like what we would consider to be like unideal conditions, right? It makes me wonder if like that's what we are. Like we think we are the center of attention and the most important thing and that we're so special. But what if like we are just we are just like a form of life that thrives on like the crusty surface of a planet. And eventually like the crusty surface kind of like peels away, and then the life at the bottom of the ocean like becomes more prevalent and comes to the top. I don't know, like these are just ideas that I had, but I often like to think as a thought experiment of of the earth as its own like organism, or even like a cell in a bigger organism as well, and that like we think our existence is like super important, and that, you know, things aren't fair, this isn't fair, that isn't fair, but like we're actually just a, you know, like a cog in a machine, for lack of a better term. We're just we're actually not significant. We're just part of something way greater, and we're just having a temporary experience. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm dumping shower thoughts on you guys. Just a little bit of brain food.
Don't think it helps to have the words catatonic, abyss, and energized in the same sentence. No ordinary person talks like that. She's obviously well educated, but it discredits the account if it comes across like a literacy masterpiece.
Yeah, a lot of people are enjoying that tangent. So tomorrow we're doing After Dark, where we're going to have a topic. Maybe we'll go somewhere along that line. Feel free to comment on this video, not in the live chat, in the comments, if you have a good topic to discuss on After Dark tomorrow.
I can't help the way that I speak, and I won't apologize for it.
I like the way Kaz speaks. She's got a lovely voice. And she's passionate, and I like that.
Thank you, Kaz, for answering those comments. What I want to do is just go through a couple of topics that seem quite relevant at the moment. Seems like the last few months has been a lot of talk of UFOs. And I think the first thing I want to, hear your take on is David Grush.
Ooh.
Absolutely fantastic. The man is amazing. He has the credentials. He is who he says he is. But he's not just an ordinary whistleblower, because he's come forward with the blessing of the Department of Defense. Because President Trump ordered the Pentagon to tell Congress everything they knew and gave them 180 days in order to do so. When President Trump's term came to an end, Mr. Biden took over. And then what we got was a very diluted case of that 5% of these vehicles were unknown, but they didn't go any further. That's not what President Trump ordered. He ordered the Pentagon to tell us everything they knew, or to tell Congress everything they knew. And so David Grush was selected to go forward. And as much as he didn't say too much within the public hearing, because he's unable to, I'm pretty sure that he did within the SCIF. And if you don't know what a SCIF is, it's a soundproof room where no electronics are allowed, so that people can speak openly and in secret.
I'll tell you what a SCIF is. A SCIF is where the truth goes to die. Yep, that's what I think a SCIF is, people. A SCIF is a room that you get lured into like a mouse into a trap, and you get in there and you say the things that need to be said, and then it gets wrapped up and buried, and you now have a legal obligation to never repeat what you just said outside, and the truth dies. That's what I believe a SCIF is.
As to what is really going on. And there was a lot more said. You know, he talked about the fact that the US government have non-human intelligent vehicles and bodies. And those are the ones from here. Because I think you'll find that he steered away from extraterrestrial. Those are the ones that are here. And I think he's an extraordinarily brave man. I know that Congress has spoken to multiple witnesses who are still serving. So it's not just David Grush.
A SCIF is where you go to launch your podcast career.
And I commend him for his bravery, because we should know.
The Peru sightings, have you heard anything on this?
Yes, I have. The Peru sightings
Okay.
and people that have been attacked.
Oh, I think she's talking about the face peelers.
This has been going on since July. is quite a frightening situation for these people.
Skiffluencers. Yeah, we got a few skiffluencers doing the rounds.
And it's real. You know, the official explanation, which is laughable, is that these are gold miners wearing jetpacks. You know, I've seen just about every gold mining program on the television and on the internet, and I've never seen one use a jetpack. You know, it's not part of their equipment. These people are being hunted, and they've talked about the 15-year-old girl that was attacked.
We still haven't watched that. The only real watch along we can do for that is Timothy Alberino's it's like a podcast hybrid explanation. I don't know if it would work well for a watch along. I guess it would. Why wouldn't it? I guess we should probably just watch it. I have had the thumbnail made for us to do that for like 3 months. We should do it.
But not many blog sites have actually covered the fact that a man was killed. And they call them Los Percaras, which means face peelers. And this is a myth that's been handed down from generation to generation over the...
Tim is a shill. Don't do it. So, look, I do think Tim is a interesting guy. I generally don't know how I feel about him. I think he... Like, when Tim speaks, it feels like you're getting a character, right? You're getting this, like, presentation of who Tim Alberino is. And it's not... I don't feel like I'm getting who you really are, which makes me just naturally feel less inclined to trust you, because it feels like instead of talking to me, you're presenting to me. And I don't like that. Just talk to me like a real person. I don't like being presented to. So that's just a personal thing. But what I'm more interested in is the people in Peru and what they have to say and how they come across and how they speak and what they have to show. That's what I think is far more interesting here.
Years, and these things exist. They have footage of these things that were hunting them. They were shooting them with shotguns, and they were getting up again. I mean, that's a scary situation if you can't shoot these things. The man that was found the next morning had his face removed, and they covered his body with banana leaves to keep the flies off him until the police turned up. And clearly his face had been removed. The skull was completely white.
This shit's so wild.
Ears, tongue. And this...
Like, if this stuff is true, this is genuinely insane. And I could be wrong. This is just my own thoughts. But I feel like if there is people going to little, like, tribal villages in Peru and removing people's faces, and they're arriving on fucking hoverboards like the Green Goblin in body armor, and this is a real thing that's happening, I think this is connected to human cloning. I think it's got something to do with human cloning. Because why the fuck do you need someone's face? What do you need someone's face for? The only thing I can think of is to, like, replicate it, use it as a mask, and, like, what would you use it as a mask for? Well, maybe you've created some kind of, like, sentient or semi-sentient humanoid intelligence. Like, your AI has gotten so good that you can literally just create a person and you can give them sentience. But maybe you haven't quite perfected, I don't know, the art of creating a realistic human face out of nothing. Maybe this is how they make NPCs, like literal NPCs. And I know this sounds crazy and far-fetched, but in the world of ufology, we do generally agree, that the Greys could be programmed life forms, PLFs. Like, you know, we talk about this, that they're like from a hive mind. They could be biologics in that they are like a real meat suit with organs, but they're like programmed. Like, I think if you think about that, if that looked like a human, then that would just be like an NPC. It'd just be like an artificial human that we can't really distinguish between, but it's like a programmed life form here to just help, like, steer along a narrative and make you think that you're in this like world with all these people with different thoughts, but actually the amount of people here that are real are maybe like 30%. And the other 70 are just NPCs helping steer and push along the narrative. I'm not saying this is what's happening, people. I'm just spitballing some shower thoughts here.
Which is why they call them face peelers. They were described as being 7 feet tall. And Phil Schneider, who was a geologist for the American military,
R.I.P.
who's
Phil.
responsible for helping build the underground facilities there, described the same creatures underground. He said they smelt like the worst garbage ever. And he shot 2 of those things. Perhaps they weren't wearing the silver suits that the Peru people said these were. And he was shot in return by the 3rd one. It blew his fingers off of his hands, blew his toenails off, and it was his dog tags that saved his life. Well, actually, the Marine that was with him saved his life, and in doing so, lost his own life.
And there are people out there that will say Phil Schneider, he's just a schizophrenic, he's just a crazy guy. He's just no way anything that he said was true, even though he was talking about underground bunkers way before people really knew about them. I don't know if what Phil said is true. And I don't know if he was crazy or not, but like, I think there's enough there, and the way that he died. This is what trips me out as well, right? When you have people like Phil Schneider, people like Amy Eskridge, people like David Wilcock even, who literally right up until their death, all 3 of these examples were going, I am not suicidal. I love my life. I love my country. This is why I'm doing this, because I believe that this needs to get out. And if you hear that I did end my own life, it is not true. Literally all 3 of those people said something similar to that and to that effect. All 3 of them ended up ending their own life. And then people are just so quick to be like, yep, crazy. Yep, schizophrenic. Don't listen to him. He just lost it. He just lost it. Don't worry about him. I'm a UFO researcher, by the way. That guy that was telling you about UFOs that said he wasn't suicidal but committed suicide, a crazy person. I'm a UFO researcher. Crazy person. So sus. You are so sus. I'm sorry. But if you can't at least have an open mind and you think you are just so definitively right about these cases, you are the suspect. Not to the murder, by the way, not to the murder, but just suspect about the information you put out in general. It has to be said. Skin Tone Chicken Bone, thank you very much for the $2. And Achy Balls, my gosh, mate, thank you very much. A big 100 from Achy. He says, if it's true, Peru is off its chops. Peru is a fascinating place, man. The Nazca Lions, the Nazca Mummies, the Sangayan Island stories, Machu Picchu, the face peelers. There is so much in that part of the world. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean, South America in general, there's just so much there that I think we have no idea about.
And he said those things were about 7 feet tall. They're not the little small grey aliens that were told about. These things are large and powerful. They're a parasitic subterranean race.
Oh, parasitic, that word.
And maybe this is what President Trump was trying to wipe out with the underground explosions, not earthquakes. Why our soldiers are being trained in subterranean warfare. Think about that. Because they're here.
You mentioned on your case that you didn't think they...
I do tend to agree with that, by the way. I think subterranean is where it's at. Ground or ocean or both.
Were beings. It was like an energy. So are you saying that these are different entities traveling all, different parts of the world, or are they connected in any way?
I think we're talking about different types here. We have those that are here, those that are underground, that some are parasitic. There are those that are under the ocean we're not even allowed to know about. Those that certainly the Nazis had contact with, that's not a joke. They came back with physics 50 years in advance of what we even knew or could understand. But then we have these new ones that are trans-dimensional, that seem to be pure energy. I didn't see any aliens or any pilots. And yes, I believe they are different, very different. And we're foolish if we think they're just one type,
What do you think of Dr. Stephen Greer?
Stephen Greer is fantastic.
Reptile,
But
lizard.
is he an A&E doctor?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Moment. This is a man that was an A&E doctor who says out of his own mouth that he's briefed 4 presidential administrations, that he's debriefed over 1,000 soldiers. Who is this person, really?
Lizard.
Who is he? He's approached the Senate with a ream of paper that lists every underground facility on our planet. He's certainly privy to certain information we're not.
I do think, like, Greer's such an interesting guy. And look, I don't know if the things that he says is true or not. Some of it I think is, some of it I don't know. But I think the most interesting part about his whole thing is that he's always like, yeah, I briefed the president on this. Like, I briefed the president. I've got this thing, and I'm talking to all these generals, and I'm talking to all these people. It's like, how? Like, the way he talks about it, it's like as if anyone can be like, you know what? I might head down and give the president a briefing. I'm going to go head to the gym, and then I might just drop into the White House and give the president a briefing. Like, how do you do that? Why are you, Stephen Greer, ex-trauma doctor, surgeon, why are you now having direct access to the president of the country? How does that happen? That's the one thing that I don't understand, and why it's so... I mean, the way he speaks, maybe he's blowing it out of proportion and talking himself up a little bit. But the way he speaks, it's like he moves in those kind of circles, like with presidents and generals. It's like, but who are you? How did you get there? Who put you there? You know what I mean? Like, if I had a whole bunch of people come to me and tell me stories, which I feel like is what happens to Greer, that doesn't give me any credibility to go and talk to the military or the president. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe there's a good explanation for this and it's just not clear. But it is strange that he can just do that.
He's got security clearances so high that he can brief the president himself. I think he's a very brave man and knows a lot more than he's actually telling us. But I'd like to know who he really is.
Lizard.
So are you saying that he is basically part of the military, really? Or because you hear these terms get thrown about: controlled opposition, shills,
He would have to be able to brief 4 presidential administrations.
Does that help his credibility?
I think so, yes. I'd like him to come forward and tell us what he really knows. There are a lot of people like Nick Pope that will never tell us what they really know.
Rest in peace.
Because of the Official Secrets Act. And there's too much secrecy. The time for secrecy is over. We need to come together on this planet as a race. The very word, as JFK said, secrecy, is repugnant in a free and open society. They need to tell us the truth, all of them.
Something else that's been in the media quite a lot lately is, the reports on wildfires, especially in places like Hawaii. But the other conversation that's kind of been thrown in the mix is direct energy weapons. I know you're not...
Guys, by the way, we had that stream the other day where we were talking about direct energy weapons and the fact that you paint things blue and it doesn't, it protects you from a direct energy weapon. And I said, like, how does this work? You can't just go and paint things blue and it protects you from a weapon. Apparently, yes, you can. And that is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And a lot of you guys were helping explain it to me in the comments, which I appreciate, that essentially these weapons, these laser weapons, work off like colors. Like it's like a color spectrum thing. So like if it's a red laser, for example, I'm just using examples here. Something that is the color blue is going to be completely unaffected by it, and these things basically just work on a color spectrum. That's amazing. That's actually incredible. I had no idea. That was blowing my mind for like 2 days after that happened. Dan Garden has gifted 5 memberships. Dan, thank you very much, brother, and thank you for being a mod. You're doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate you. Let's get some love in the chat for Dan and the 5 new weirdos.
Not really a conspiracy theorist, but talking about the military and their technology, do you know anything about this?
No, a conspiracy is only something that doesn't tally with the official narrative. When you look at the evidence, because the evidence will tell you what really happened. Nothing blue burned. And that's the only color that an energy weapon doesn't burn, is blue. How can the alloys on a car melt? And yet cloth, blue-colored umbrellas next to it not burn? Something else happened there. All of the celebrity houses were painted blue beforehand. There was a meeting in January this year because they wanted to turn Hawaii into an AI city, all electric. But in order to do that, they need to move everybody out. There's a lot more horrific things that have been going on that I don't really want to talk about, that FEMA have been caught doing by the US Marines. It certainly was an energy weapon.
What's FEMA?
And that is domestic terrorism.
Something that seems to be going on forever as well with no end in sight is the war in Ukraine, the talks of war with Taiwan and China. Is this a cover-up, or is there a link here with UFOs?
Everything is linked, Cullen. Look, if you're a superpower, you're not going to go in with 2,000 boots on the ground. If you're a superpower, you're going to do your airstrikes. You're going to take out their infrastructure, their communications, their airport, which is still open, by the way. The Ukrainian airport is still open. A superpower does not start a war with 2,000 boots on the ground. There are is some evidence of UFOs in the Ukraine and phantom UFOs in the Ukraine.
Federal Emergency Management Administration, right? So these people just come in and they're there for like after a hurricane, or fires and things like that.
Ukraine. And this happened coincidentally the time that this alleged war began. Terrestrial wars are created to cover up extraterrestrials.
Gotcha.
Whether it be their arrival. I mean, World War II, they talked about Foo Fighters. Our pilots talked about Foo Fighters. If there are huge explosions going off during wartime, you expect it. But if it's in peacetime, as it was here, it rattles people's cages. They want to know what's going on. It's out of the ordinary. But if there's a terrestrial war, as a cover, people will accept it.
I think to add on to this connection, maybe, it's something I've covered recently.
What if we were just meant to, what if just submitting to the fact that there is something here that is bigger than us, that is more powerful than us, that we are lower than on some kind of intellectual cosmic hierarchy. We are underneath it, and it is here, it's with us, and it's powerful. What if we are just meant to submit and accept that, and that pursuing it and trying to understand it is what the apple and the garden of the apple, Adam and Eve. What if biting from that apple leading to the downfall of man is is what this is like trying to understand and figure out this thing that seems like just beyond comprehension, that is like bigger than us, that is here alongside us. And like that's what that story is about, is like trying to uncover this, and that the knowledge of disclosure, like real disclosure, what is actually going on, discovering what our actual place is in this. If people were collectively aware of that on a wide scale, that would be the downfall of man, because we would, I don't know, for whatever reason, either we would be unhappy, maybe we couldn't handle it, maybe it would make us act a certain way if we realized what was actually going on, and it would ultimately lead to our downfall, because we are ultimately at the mercy of something else that's here and more powerful. Again, I'm just spitballing shower thoughts at you guys tonight. Please don't take anything I'm saying too seriously.
I've had a lot of messages off people, and I've had some weird things kind of tying together recently, but migration.
Look, let me first say, I'm not a racist, okay?
That's exactly what a racist would say. That's exactly what a racist would say, Kaz Clark. I'm just kidding.
But men go to war, and women and children flee war. Where are all the women and children, please? Everybody that's coming over are fighting age men.
And doctors
They're
and engineers.
Now, are they there to protect us? Or are they there to round us up? What are these immigration centers for if we're not using them? What are all these new prisons for if we're not using them? Prisoners are being released early, on tag, because our prisons are overcrowded. So what are they built for? What are the FEMA camps built for? The largest one can accommodate 2 million people. But where the hell do they expect to find 2 million people? And more importantly, why? There's something else going on they're not telling us about, because it's cataclysmic. And we should be told. We should be allowed to make preparations. Putin, who's supposed to be the bad guy, has made preparations for every single one of his citizens, man, woman, and child. They all have a space. But what are our governments doing for us?
Giving us more doctors and engineers, which we absolutely need.
Absolutely nothing.
Or that.
Do you want to know what immigration is really all about? Ask them, because they're working with the SAS. They're working with our military. They are soldiers. That's my view on immigration in this country. Why is it that our own veterans are living on the streets? Why our own people are living on the streets? And yet these people can come over and live in hotels and get £175 a week. That's more than our unemployed get.
I mean, we're clearly well off topic here. We're not talking about the Penturk UFO right now, and that's okay. This has only got 5 minutes left. But I got to say, I agree with her. I do think countries should, no matter what country you are, you should look after your own people before you then extend that help and accommodate others. I think that should be the case in every country. It just makes sense, right? It's like if you had a house and your own children were in the house going, "Mum, we are so hungry. Please, like we're literally starving and I'm malnourished." And Mum's going, yeah, but the neighbors, they're really hungry too. I got to cook this for the neighbors. If there's anything left after the neighbors finish, maybe you can have some crumbs and some crust. But look, I'm sorry, kids. Love you, but the neighbors, they're starving. We're going to go look after them. It's kind of like that.
Because they're on the payroll. There is something being planned, and it's not good. Not good at all for any of us.
It's a very frightening thought, Kaz. It was only literally a week ago, someone sent me a video of a military base that was boarded up, and people messaging saying, yeah, this is for immigration, and it is a frightening thought, and very plausible what you're saying. I think I went up to Llanelli not long ago, and they said, we've all said no to this. Like, it's not like this is something we've agreed with. We've said no, and it's like everything about us is being stripped away, isn't it?
We're not given a choice. And I said before, where are all the women and children? Men go to war. Women and children flee war. Why are they coming here? There's no war here. Why aren't they fighting for their own countries?
There's a war in their country and around their country. Who started that war? Yep. They're fleeing a war that I'm not going to say we started, but perhaps one of our allies may have started. So it really makes you wonder what the hell is going on here, right? We don't want these people coming here, yet we are being gaslit into supporting a war that is pushing them here. Makes you wonder who's really pulling the strings, right? Who's in charge? What's going on? Why is this happening?
Why are they coming here? And why are we accommodating them when we're not even accommodating our own people?
Yep.
Something very recent, talking about 24 hours ago, was a closed airspace in Wales.
There was a closed airspace across the whole of the UK, and it was supposed to have been some kind of glitch. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but it was something electronic. There was an electronic problem, so all the planes were grounded for 12 hours. But I have a WhatsApp group where I have watchers all across the world now.
Not always. Some are not in danger and just want free stuff. That's absolutely true, Rocklock. Yeah. The amount of times I have been, I've had conversations with multiple people who are either like Indian or Pakistani or something from like that part of the world, and driving the taxi and just getting in conversation. And I'm kidding you, I'm not kidding you, the amount of times that they have just openly said to me, like, yeah, I can just come here and study for free in Australia. I can just come here and study for free. And, it's basically like there's just a couple of loopholes that you jump through, and I can come here, study for free, and then go home. And it's basically like our system seems to be just set up for exploitation, and no one cares about it. Like, no one cares. It's just like, yeah, we're being easily exploited and nothing's done about it. Yet, if I am a little bit off, like with my taxes, or I don't pay like a parking fine, it's like, I'll go to prison. But meanwhile, people are just like milking the fuck out of a broken system and exploiting the Australian taxpayer. I'm sure it happens in other countries too. And no one cares.
And I was told that the Indian airspace also went down. And that is too much of a coincidence for me, because one of the things they did for Penturk was they closed the entire Welsh airspace. And they may have changed their MO just a little bit, because they don't use the smaller reconnaissance and surveillance aircraft anymore. They're actually using fast jets to respond to these things. They still have to close the airspace. So why was it that when the UK went down, the whole of India went down too, on the other side of the world? And I think it's UFO related. In fact, I'm 99% sure it is.
Too woke? Yeah, God. Aren't we glad that's over?
I think we probably want to finish off as well on the fact that we've had so many messages. I mean, I've had email after email. And I want to say thank you to all those people who have emailed, because they have all been in support. You get the one or two, this is rubbish, this is a lie, but majority, wanted to support. And one of the main things they were talking about was signing the petition. People thought that we wasn't doing our job properly because we didn't put the signed petition in the comments box, but it wasn't actually available at the time. And Kaz, maybe you want to talk a little bit more about it, but what's happened and what do you want to see happen in the future?
Okay. We actually launched the petition and it was rejected on the grounds that a petition already existed that was similar. So we checked, because we were pretty sure that wasn't the case. And the petition that exists is for a reporting office, a UFO reporting office, which is not what we're asking for. We're asking for full disclosure on UFOs or UAPs or UAVs or whatever it is they want to call them, and non-human intelligences. So at present, we've appealed the the decision at the moment. And I don't hold out much hope for the appeal process. But as I said before, petitions have a shelf life in this country. And in November, that petition, the existing petition, comes to an end. So if we don't get a result from our appeal, we will launch in November without fail. So the petition will be there to be signed. And I want to say thank you to everybody that supported this case. I want to say thank you to all of my skeptics. I would like you to sit on my jewelry and to look at the evidence, please.
Sit on my jewelry. I've never heard that saying before. What does that mean?
And I want to thank all of my debunkers and all of my trolls, because I forgive you. Because this is about all of us. This is about humanity. I've got no interest in UFOs, but I have a very big...
Oh, jury. Jury. Right. My apologies.
Big interest in human beings, and that includes you. So thank you.
I think that was really nice, the way she finished that. And by saying, you know, to people who don't believe her, skeptics, debunkers, that she, what did she say? That fuck, what did she just say? That she like apologizes to them. She forgives them. She understands, you know. I think that's just a really beautiful thing to do and to say. And to me, I think it's a very authentic way of handling things, because I think when you know something for certain that you know that you can't prove to people, there's no point getting upset that they don't understand. Because I think a reasonable person would know that if I've seen something that I can't prove, but I know it's real, but I can't prove it, it would be unreasonable for me to expect people to believe it, because I can't prove it and they can't see it, but I know it. I know. So of course I'm going to believe it. And I reasonably should have understanding that you don't. But at the same time, I would also hope that, you know, this is the thing with this stuff. It's very hard to get a clear idea of what is going on. But I think if you give yourself just the time to look at the amount of sightings and cases that date back, you know, almost over 100 years, really, you have to at least come to the conclusion that something far greater than what we are told is here and interacting with us, lives here, and maybe has some kind of role in steering us or engaging us as a civilization, plays some kind of role in like our growth and evolution. I don't know what its role is, but I think it's very hard to disagree with that, right? That there's something going on. What it is and being able to pinpoint it, that's the tough thing. And I think anyone who's very positive on that is a little sus to me. And I think to you guys as well, because I mean, we don't know what the hell is going on. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it, people. Stevie with $20 says, why is the human race so damn clueless and uncaring about what the hell is going on, aside from the 976 of us? Amazing. Guys, if you enjoyed this stream, please slap a like. If we could get all 976 likes, that would be fantastic. Stevie, thank you very much for the super chat, my man. I appreciate you and for always being here and supporting the show. Guys, I know some of you can't always catch the streams. I do my best to spread it out. And right now, we're kind of on that late night schedule for the Americans. But I think it does gives other people a bit of a chance as well. So we'll always change it up. I think where I'm at right now is just, it's a very awkward spot. I'm like in the middle of everyone. It's kind of tough, but it is what it is. It won't be forever. And I am counting down the days until Suki is back on the show. I miss my little girl so damn much. And I can't wait to just be back with her and just have her grounding my day every day. It feels weird not walking her, if I'm honest. I feel like that kind of sets me up for a good day, is walking Suki, and I don't have that anymore. So guys, thank you very much for hanging out today. We'll be back tomorrow, most likely at about the same time, with an After Dark. Like I said, if you have a good topic or you have like a good discussion, like a bit of a moral dilemma, a good question that you think would make a good topic for After Dark, put it in the comments of this video, not the live chat, the comments. Last time we did, would you still want disclosure if it meant triggering Armageddon? Okay, like a real moral dilemma question of like truth versus, you know, like a global catastrophe. I've got a few ideas anyway, but I'll definitely be reading the comments. Thank you guys again. If you want to support the channel, like the video, share it around. You can become a member for $5 a month. It gives you some extra perks like the members only content, members only section of Discord. You get a cool badge next to your name so you can show your weirdo status as you grow through the ranks. You can also buy me a coffee, which is, well, it's normally just here. There's a QR code. We've got some merch on the merch store. You can go and check that out and follow me on my socials right here. The other channels are linked down below as well. That's all the housekeeping, guys. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever it is. Be good to each other, be kind, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.